500,000 miles. Yes, you heard that right. Take a look at this odometer. It's crossed 500,000 miles and runs so smooth you'd think I just picked it up from the showroom. And the craziest part? I only paid $4,200 for it last month. You're probably thinking I just got lucky. Maybe stumbled on a rare gem or knew someone at a dealership. But what if I told you there are thousands of these hidden tanks out there, just sitting in plain sight, waiting to be found? Just 3 weeks ago, I met a guy named John in Arizona. He's still driving his Lexus LS400 with 478,000 miles on it every day. A month before that, I talked to Sarah in Michigan. Her old Mercedes W123 Diesel just passed 525,000 miles. That's almost a round trip to the moon. But here's the crazy part. None of them spent more than $5,500 on their cars. Most actually paid way less than that. In this video, I'll break down which cars reliably reach 500,000 miles, where to find them for under $5,000, how to spot the best ones, and most importantly, how to keep them running for the long haul. First, you need to understand one key thing about how these cars were designed, because what I found out about their engineering will completely change the way you think about car longevity. Take a look at this engine. It comes from a time when automakers built everything to last. No planned obsolescence, no disposable parts, and no computer-optimized shortcuts. What you're about to see isn't just about getting around for cheap. It's about finding machines built so well they've outlived the companies that designed them. And luckily for you, this is the best possible time to buy them. Let me show you something that might completely change how you look at car shopping. Right now, there's a listing for a 2019 Toyota Corolla with 85,000 miles for the asking price of $18,995. And people are actually paying that much. The used car market has gone off the rails. Buyers are throwing serious money at basic cars with average reliability. But while most folks chase newer models with uncertain futures, there's another world out there. One where build quality matters more than the year on the plate, and where high mileage doesn't scare people off, instead it proves the car was built to last. I recently visited a small dealership that focuses only on high-mileage luxury cars. Tucked in the back of the lot was a 2001 Lexus LS400. Leather interior, smooth V8, 320,000 miles. Most shoppers wouldn't even stop to ask about it. But this dealer knew what he had. That Lexus came from a very different era, the golden age of engineering. You see, back in the 1990s and early 2000s, something unusual was happening in the car world. Automakers weren't just battling over features or styling, they were going head-to-head on build quality. Toyota poured over $1 billion into engineering the Lexus LS400. Mercedes was still building their cars like armored tanks. And Honda? They were mastering the science of long-lasting, low-maintenance reliability. That gave us a generation of vehicles designed not just to hit 100,000 miles, but to keep going, decade after decade. This opportunity is so special because today's market has totally overlooked these machines. Everyone's obsessed with low mileage, ignoring the fact that some of the best-built cars ever made are sitting right in front of them at bargain prices. Now think about this. Would you spend $19,000 on a 2019 Corolla with 85,000 miles, or pick up a carefully serviced Lexus LS400 with 250,000 miles for just $4,000? One of those cars was built to meet the bare minimum and keep production costs low. The other was carefully engineered to take on the world's finest luxury sedans. I spoke recently with a mechanic who's worked on high-end cars for 3 decades. What he said caught me off guard. He's seeing more failures in cars just 3 years old than in some of the 1990s models that come through his shop. Modern cars rely heavily on delicate electronics and lightweight materials. They're just not made to the same standard. While this may all sound very enticing, it's important to note that not every older car is worth your time. You can't grab any high-mileage vehicle and expect it to keep going. Only a handful were engineered with durability in mind. These are the ones with high-quality parts and generous tolerances that allow them to thrive well beyond 200,000 miles. Let's begin with the unrivaled champion of durability, the Toyota Land Cruiser. But not just any old Toyota, the Toyota Land Cruiser 80 series is especially reliable. Just last month in Colorado, I found what looked like a worn-out SUV, but proved to be a different beast entirely. It already had nearly 500,000 miles on the original engine, and it was still running strong. That, my friends, was a 1990s Toyota Land Cruiser 80 series. Built like a military vehicle and designed to survive long after the road ends. Just last month, I came across one in Colorado with 487,000 miles and still running on its original engine. The owner, Mike, picked it up 5 years ago when it had 380,000 miles. He paid only $3,800. To most people, that would have sounded like a terrible idea. But Mike knew something important. These cars were designed from the start to go 25 years or more without needing a major engine rebuild. You see, in the early 90s, Toyota had one customer in mind while designing this beast: Australian mining operations. What makes these beasts so reliable is that their target audience didn't need comfort. They needed a machine that could run day and night through brutal terrain, often without stopping. So Toyota responded with a level of engineering rarely seen today. The 4.5-liter inline-six engine used in the 80 series wasn't just strong, it was borderline indestructible. Drivers regularly report 400,000 to 500,000 miles without touching the internals or rebuilding anything. Only oil changes and timing belts. And yet they fly under the radar. Collectors chase newer SUVs, and dealerships push crossovers. But these are hiding in plain sight, often on Craigslist or Facebook Marketplace for less than $5,000. A few weeks ago, I helped someone buy a 1991 model with 275,000 miles. The seller handed over 3 inches of maintenance records, including every repair, every service, logged since the 90s. In most cars, that mileage would be a red flag. On a Land Cruiser, that's barely warming up. The truth is, you don't need a new car with a 7-year loan. You just need to find the right kind of old, the kind built to last. Now, let's talk about one of the most enduring machines ever put on the road, the Lexus LS400. This car stands for a kind of dedication that's rare today. Toyota invested more than $1 billion to craft an engine they aimed to perfect. Toyota wasn't simply making a luxury vehicle. They set out to show the world what true engineering excellence looks like. The result was the Lexus LS400, specifically the later models 1995 to 1997, which have now become legends. But Toyota wasn't simply entering the luxury market with this machine. They were making a global statement. Before it ever reached customers, the one UZ-FE-V8 under the hood had already been test run for over 1.5 million miles. To put that in perspective, most newer engines aren't even built to make it to 200,000, so you can imagine the difference in quality. A few months back, I came across a 1996 LS400 down in Florida. Sarah, the owner, paid $3,500 for it just 3 years ago. Since then, it's crossed 425,000 miles without breaking a sweat. Inside, the cabin still looks untouched. The power windows and accessories are fully functional, and the engine is still clean between oil changes. But what really sets this car apart isn't just the longevity, it's the experience behind the wheel. Even with that kind of mileage, the LS400 doesn't drive like an old car. The V8 stays so balanced you can rest a coin on top while it's running. The shifts are seamless, and the suspension floats over rough roads better than many newer luxury cars. And here's what makes it even better: these cars aren't that rare. They're still out there. But not every LS400 is a good buy. Some were neglected for years. If you're serious about finding one, there's a list of critical things you need to check before making a move. Buying the wrong one can drain your savings account, so we'll discuss more on how to find the right one later in this video. Now, let's talk about what could be the most indestructible car ever built: the Mercedes-Benz W123 Diesel. And I don't mean just any W123, I'm talking specifically about the 300D, powered by the legendary OM617 5-cylinder diesel engine. Now, this engine doesn't purr. It might rattle a bit, but it just won't die, because the OM617 was designed to run for literally millions of miles. In fact, there are documented cases of these engines exceeding 1 million miles without a rebuild. It's this engineering excellence that makes Mercedes special. 2 months ago, I met Peter in Wisconsin. His 1983 Mercedes 300D has passed 600,000 miles. Yep, you heard that right, 600,000 miles. And it still starts on the first crank, even in the snow. The paint is a bit faded, the seats and trim are worn, but it's still one sturdy machine. Peter bought this car 6 years ago for $2,800. Since then, it has been his everyday ride. These Mercedes diesels stand out because they come from a time when the company prioritized solid engineering over making quick profits. The OM617 engine inside was made to last millions of miles. Some of these engines have even been documented to be driven over 1 million miles without needing a rebuild. Still, the engine is only part of the story. The whole car was designed to be extremely durable. The body panels are so thick that today's cars feel extremely fragile by comparison. The suspension can handle rough dirt roads like those in Africa. Even the materials inside were chosen to survive decades of use. Right now, these tough W123 diesel models are often overlooked. While collectors scramble for gas Mercedes cars and AMG badges, you can still find diesel W123s in great shape for less than $4,000. Just last week, I helped someone buy a 1982 300D. It had 340,000 miles and came with full service records dating back to 1990. The price was $3,200. But let's turn to something more practical. The Honda Accord from 1990 to 1997 with the F22 4-cylinder engine. This car might not have the luxury feel of a German Mercedes or the ruggedness of a Land Cruiser, but it stands out for its incredible durability. I recently tracked a 1994 Accord in Oregon. It had 485,000 original miles. The owner, Tom, bought it 10 years ago with 300,000 miles for just $1,800. Since then, he has only done routine maintenance like oil changes, timing belts, and replacing basic wear parts. The engine has never been opened, the transmission is still original, and even the power windows work perfectly. What makes this Accord special is its simplicity. Honda used its experience building tough motorcycles to design a reliable family car. The F22 engine is one of the most dependable 4-cylinders ever made. It's common to see these engines running smoothly with over 400,000 miles on the original head gasket. Here's the surprising part: these cars are still very affordable. While some used Civics go for $155,000 with just 100,000 miles, these durable Accords can be found for $2,000 to $3,000. Last month, I found a one-owner 1996 Accord with 225,000 miles and full service records for $2,400. Some might say that older cars need constant repairs, but let me tell you, that's a myth. These Accords were made before planned obsolescence, before cars were designed to be replaced every few years. I recently compared maintenance costs of a 1994 Accord and a 2020 model. The 2020 owner spent more on upkeep in 2 years than the high-mileage 1994 owner did in 5. Modern cars offer more features but are also more complex, which means more things can break. Now that you've seen which vehicles can push past the 500,000-mile mark, let's look at how to actually track one down. Because here's the reality. For every reliable, long-lasting car out there, you'll find dozens that have been poorly maintained and aren't worth the risk. I use something I call the service history gold standard. The idea is simple. When you're checking out a high-mileage car, the file of repair and maintenance paperwork should be thicker than your phone. Just last week, I passed on a stunning Mercedes 300D. That's because the seller couldn't provide a single maintenance record. 2 days later, I came across a rougher-looking one, but the documents dated all the way back to 1985. That's the one I told my client to buy. But paperwork is only part of the equation. Let me walk you through how I tracked down that $4,200 Land Cruiser I mentioned earlier. I didn't just search for Toyota Land Cruiser like everyone else. I got specific. Keywords like one-owner Land Cruiser or full service history filter the junk and bring up a totally different batch of listings than a basic search. Here's another tip. Timing is key. The best deals usually pop up in winter, especially in colder states. When it's snowing, fewer people want to buy a used high-mileage vehicle. That same 300D with over 600,000 miles? The buyer picked it up in January for nearly half the price those cars go for during summer. But at the end of the day, it's not just about where you look, you have to know how to recognize the right car. I recently checked out 2 Lexus LS400s on the same day. Both had over 300,000 miles, and both were under $4,000. But there was a major difference. The first owner had proof of every oil change for over a decade. The second didn't even know when the timing belt was last changed. However, it's not all about paperwork. It's about finding vehicles that were owned by people who cared. People who understood what they were driving. Here's how I actually find these high-mileage legends without stepping on landmines. The first step? I focus on the owner, not the car. The best high-mileage cars are owned by people who can tell you every detail about the vehicle's maintenance history. If they can't tell you when they last changed the oil, move on. A good owner treats their car like a long-term relationship. They've put in the work to keep it running well. Next, I look for what I call mechanical transparency. A car with 400,000 miles isn't going to look brand new. It should have where that matches its age. If it looks too perfect, there's probably something off. The best high-mileage cars have a few battle scars but are mechanically solid. It's all about finding that balance. The third step is focusing on the small, often overlooked details. Do the windows work properly? Does the air conditioning still chill? These may not be deal breakers, but they tell you a lot about the car's upkeep. If an owner didn't care enough to fix something simple, imagine what else they ignored. But here's the most crucial piece of advice I can offer. Never buy the first car you see. These vehicles are out there in abundance, and you don't need to rush. Patience pays off. The best deals usually come from people who need to sell quickly, often because of life circumstances. Last month, I helped a subscriber buy a 1995 Lexus LS400 with 280,000 miles for $3,800. The owner was moving overseas and needed to sell quickly. The car had full service records since new, a recent timing belt, and drove like it had far fewer miles. Finding one of these legendary cars is only part of the challenge. The real key to making them last is what I call preventive perfection. This goes beyond basic oil changes. It means treating these cars like the finely engineered royalty they are. Take Mike's Land Cruiser with 487,000 miles. He changes the oil every 3,000 miles without fail. Not 5,000 or 7,500 like modern advice, but 3,000. Maybe that sounds extreme, but the engine still runs like new after nearly 500,000 miles. Most people wait for problems to appear. But these cars weren't built for reactive fixes. They were made when preventive maintenance was everything. Remember the Mercedes 300D with 600,000 miles? Its owner changes fluids many wouldn't even know to check. I compared fluid samples from two Lexus LS400s with similar mileage. One had transmission fluid changed every 30,000 miles. The other never touched it. The difference was clear. The well-maintained transmission looked like it had half the miles. Here's the best part. Keeping these cars in top shape costs less than maintaining modern vehicles. That 1994 Accord I mentioned, its owner spends about $600 a year on maintenance. Good luck matching that with a new car. These cars need specific care on a schedule. The Land Cruiser gets a timing belt every 60,000 miles. The Mercedes Diesel gets fuel filters replaced every 15,000. The LS400's valve clearances get checked every 30,000 miles, even though they rarely need adjusting. It might sound like a lot of work, but these services are affordable. A timing belt change on a Land Cruiser costs around $500 at an independent shop. The same job on a new SUV could easily cost 3 times as much. Another advantage here is that these cars were designed to be simple to fix. You don't need a degree or expensive tools. Many repairs can be done in your driveway. That's why so many reach huge mileages. Maintenance is accessible. The most important tip is to never skip scheduled maintenance to save money. These cars will last if cared for properly, but they will show you when you don't keep up. Perfect service history isn't just proof of work done, it shows what wasn't skipped. Last week alone, I helped 3 subscribers find their high mileage rides. James got a 300,000-mile LS400 for $3,200. Sarah bought a W123 Diesel for $4,100. Mike scored a Land Cruiser with 250,000 miles for $4,800. But these deals vanish fast. The LS400 James bought was online for less than 24 hours. The best ones always sell quickly. That's why I send immediate alerts to subscribers when I spot these immortal cars nearby. Timing is critical. These aren't just used cars, they're rare investments that get harder to find every day. So if you want to save thousands on your next car, hit that subscribe button and turn on your notifications.